The Oilers finally fill their GM vacancy, but is Stan Bowman the right choice? Hey everyone, Rob Wong, joined alongside by Gerry Moddejonge of the Edmonton Journal. And Gerry, it's been sort of a pretty terribly kept secret as Stan Bowman is now the GM of the Edmonton Oilers. There had always been some rumblings once he was reinstated by the NHL that this could happen, and ultimately it has. But in the end, of course, we know there's a lot of baggage that comes with Stan Bowman at this point. Do you think he was the right hire for the Oilers?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, I guess, Rob. I mean, this whole thing is a bit of a head scratcher for me. I mean, they waited until his, like you mentioned, his reinstatement here in July, just to get the ball rolling on this. Obviously, this was their plan, and they wanted they had their ducks in a row and wanted this to happen to fall into place here. But it kind of makes me wonder, Rob. I mean, the team's all set in place. He's going to be splitting the duties with Oilers CEO Jeff Jackson. Free agency came and went. They pretty much, got even more than the core, I would say. They got almost everybody, all the important pieces back to that roster who finished off last year, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Like, obviously, they have unfinished business. So, the head coach was hired already. There's not going to be a lot in my mind for Stan Bowman to come in to do. So what was the rush to hire him and pick him up? As soon as he's reinstated here, like you mentioned, a lot of baggage. I don't think we need to get at this point into the whole incident of sexual assault involving Kyle Beachback with the Blackhawks in 2010. It took 10 years plus for the fallout of that to actually happen, and then all of a sudden, Stan Bowman, who was the GM in Chicago when it all happened, it's the buck kind of stops at his desk. So it's all on him that it wasn't handled properly or at all at some points until it all kind of blew up in his face here, and he got suspended, served that, a little over 2.5 years, and is now right back in the league with his first job being with the Edmonton Oilers. Rob, this seems to me like somebody with that kind of baggage would kind of be going to a place a little more desperate than a team right on the cusp of a Stanley Cup and one win away from hoisting a Stanley Cup and winning it all. But obviously the Oilers like, what they see. His resume, professional and on the ice, second to none over the past decade. This guy's, helped, if not put together initially, at least hold together a pretty dynamic Chicago Blackhawks squad that won 3 cups in the span of 6 years. Rob, that's as close as it gets to dynasty in the NHL, in maybe all the pro sports at this point. You don't see a lot more success than that happening. Is he going to be what the Oilers need to push them over the top, not just in the upcoming year, but years to come, which is, obviously their goal. Who knows? Time will tell. But at this point, boy, they are taking, and you've seen it, the social media backlash from Oilers fans, and maybe not even Oilers fans or hockey fans at all. People are up in arms, and rightfully so, to varying degrees, including extreme. It's not something in this day and age you can just kind of shrug away. I believe Wayne Gretzky, of all people, said it best when he went on a broadcast and basically said, "Do you want your 18-year-old son landing up in an environment like the one that was under, Stan in Chicago?" So, you know what? Baggage is, I believe that's the word you use. That's a perfect term for it. I don't know if it's worth it. Is Stan Bowman going to bring something into the mix that Jeff Jackson hasn't already been doing? But obviously the Oilers are looking long term. At the same time, some part of me, Rob, thinks you don't mess with the chemistry that they have. And yes, this guy's not going to be in the locker room all the time, but he is certainly talking to players and players who are here already, as well as potential additions to the locker room. Chemistry is such an intangible thing that when you have it, And the Oilers definitely do. It's not just the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl show. And we'll get into Draisaitl a little bit later on here. But, boy, I just, part of me thinks this is, the Oilers are not in the place where they're desperate enough to have to bring in the heat like this that Stan Bowman is bringing. But, I mean, at the same time, if he didn't run into his own troubles like he has, he might have been a Chicago Blackhawks for life. Who knows? And they wouldn't have had the opportunity to bring him in. But the big question in my mind is, and Sheldon Kennedy showed up at the press conference yesterday and addressed this himself. And we all know the work Sheldon has done in the area of abuse and bullying in pro sports, and not just sexual abuse either. But boy, he gave as close as it gets to a ringing endorsement in a case like this can be to Stan Bowman. So you have to maybe take a little faith from that, and maybe it'll all turn out for the best. But yeah, the club is certainly taking heat for this right now.
Yeah, it does seem like a bit of a risk here, and the Oilers, of course, not shying away from controversy in recent years with the likes of Corey Perry or even Evander Kane, of course. But, as you mentioned, a lot of the heavy lifting has already been done by Jeff Jackson in the offseason. There's only, a couple of weeks here before training camps really get going. In fact, what is left for Stan Bowman and this front office to do when it comes to the Oilers? You mentioned Leon Draisaitl, potential contract extension there. Is that maybe number one on the to-do list?
For sure, that is his top priority, and he said it as much himself during his introductory presser. Leon Draisaitl heading into the final year of his current contract. Boy, I mean, not only the team, but this entire town would like nothing more than to know Connor McDavid's right-hand man is shored up for, and it might not be a long-term one. They just want something. They just want some sort of answer, some sort of commitment from both the club and the player that Draisaitl is going to be here, and they aren't going to break up that pretty magical connection that we've seen both on the power play and at times when games get tough. I mean, even current coach Chris Knobloch is not afraid to throw Draisaitl up on that line with McDavid. And I'd argue there's not a lot of 1-2 tandems across the league that are as effective as those guys have been, especially in the playoffs. So those guys can just raise their game to another level again. And maybe even Draisaitl is slightly better, takes a leadership role over McDavid even at that point. So certainly something on everybody's minds around here, and Stan Bowman knows what the first order of business is for him.
Well, it's been an eventful offseason so far for the Oilers. We'll see what's left here in the remaining weeks. As always, you can leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Gerry Moddejonge, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.